Welcome to a new episode of the Cigar Snob Podcast. And now here are your hosts, Erik Calvino, Ivan Ocampo, and Jim Rodriguez.
Oh, yes, indeed. The good times continue on the Cigar Snob Magazine podcast, video, audio for your viewing and listening pleasures. With my guys, Erik Calvino and Ivan Ocampo, I am merely Jim Rodriguez. What's going on, boys?
Hello, Jim.
What's happening, Jimmy?
Everybody good?
Very good.
Everybody has been enjoying their time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Smoking a lot of cigars.
Yes, because this is a very special
Yep.
edition of the Cigar Snob Magazine podcast. If you haven't already noticed, on Instagram, on Twitter, on the newsstands, or in the coffee tables of your favorite lounges, the top 25 for 2022 came out for Cigar Snob Magazine.
That's right. We announced it on our website on January 4, 5, and 6. Right? We do that whole 3-part release, and it was awesome. I mean, we had so much feedback. A lot of people engaged with it, so it was really cool.
Yeah, some good stuff, some surprises, some underdogs, some old favorites. So we invite you, of course, to check out the full list at cigarsnobmagazine.com.
Yeah, or cigarsnob.com.
Or
It's a little
Cigar
bit easier.
Yeah, cigarsnob.com.
Yeah.
I always put in Cigar Snob Magazine and it comes out.
All three works. Cigar Snob, Cigar Snob Mag, and Cigar Snob Magazine.
But if you're all into that brevity stuff, cigarsnob.com works.
Yeah.
I have it right here.
So
Any
what did
Big
you,
Lebowski.
Jimmy? So Ivan and I obviously were knee deep in the whole thing. But before we get into our proceedings, what did you think of the number one? Have you had it?
I have not had it, and I'm hoping that Santa gets my letter early, and maybe I'll get it today because we're doing something a little different. We're going to kind of do like a little contest to see which one of us gets to smoke. They're all, whatever we smoke today is on the top 25 list,
Yep.
and the number one is involved. So we're going to get into that and how we're going to smoke that. But first, Jasper, I saw him smoking something. Jasper, what you got?
If you're like me and look forward to cozying up to a warm fireplace after a long day on the range, kicking off your boots and settling into a nice big bowl of chili con queso, then you'd love the La Aurora 107 Nicaragua. This Dominican-made Nicaraguan puro is a bold new blend with tons of flavor made with the same craftsmanship that has made La Aurora cigars one of the oldest and premium cigar makers in all the world. Started in the Dominican Republic in 1903, La Aurora Cigars was founded by the young Eduardo Leon Jimenez, who set out to fulfill his dream of making great cigars. Today, over a century later, La Aurora has a presence in 5 continents and more than 1,000 employees. The original La Aurora 107 was released in 2010, commemorating the company's 107 years in business. Now the La Aurora 107 Nicaragua brings a bolder new profile to smokers who have become accustomed to smoking the consistent quality and excellence of La Aurora cigars. The 107 Nicaragua comes to life with a diverse array of spicy notes accompanied by a subtle touch of leather. A rich balance of earth, wood, and floral notes flourishes deeper into the smoke with a characteristic pinch of licorice and walnut on the finish. Made in 4 sizes, a 7x47 Churchill, 6x58 Grand Toro, 5.5x54 Toro, and a 5x50 Robusto. The La Aurora 107 Nicaragua is a perfect complement to any rum cocktail, steak dinner, or even my famous chili con queso. Go on out and get yourself one and tell them Jasper sent you.
All right, Jasper, always good. I always mean to ask him what he's smoking when he's out there with Chente the horse, but we'll figure it out one day.
One of these days.
We're actually getting along now. We're actually getting along.
I'm so happy, man, because it's been a it's been a trying time here when you and Jasper don't get along.
We've buried the hatchet. We've buried the bad cigars. So we're good. All right. So
Glad to hear it.
speaking of not bad cigars, the top 25 list, cigarsnob.com. You can get all 25 there. You can see, hopefully one of yours is in there. One of your favorites are in there, and maybe you'll discover some new ones. So we have got all 25 sticks here, but we're going to do we're going to do a little competition.
Yep.
The best way to smoke these, right, Ivan?
Yeah. So I'll say we've been doing this. I don't know what episode we're on, and this is. You can tell this is a special edition of this podcast if none of us have a cigar in our hands.
Right. I felt a little naked here. I was like, where's the smoky treats? Where's the smoky treats?
Yeah, this never happened. So this is going to be exciting.
Yeah. So Jimmy, tell us how we are. So the idea is we're each going to smoke a different cigar from the top 25 list.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to make sure that somebody gets the number one, right?
I vote for me, but we're gonna we're gonna do this, being that we're all tremendous athletes.
Oh yeah,
and fierce competitors. We're gonna do rock paper scissors.
That's right.
That seems the best way to keep the playing field. You're a fabulous soccer player. Sure, you're a tremendous golfer. I'm a tremendous arm wrestler. So we decided to do this. I'm the arm wrestling champion of the Northeastern Corridor. By the way.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, if you're ever in New Hampshire, watch out. Good story.
Right.
It sounds like it's true, right?
Yeah.
All right, so you ready to do a little rock paper scissors here?
Yep. Let's
and
do
we're
it.
gonna figure it out.
So
we're
again, if you're listening to this in the podcast in your car, when you get back home later, you can see this on YouTube.
Yeah, and listen,
Go to the Cigar Snob
and if you,
YouTube channel.
I'm not asking you to take your hands off the wheel, but maybe mentally you can play with us too, and then maybe you see if you would have won. All right,
right. But round one of rock paper scissors is going to really be odd man out.
Right,
more
we're
than
going to
rock,
do
paper,
this
scissors.
right out of the gate, an elimination game.
Yep. Yeah, because we got to get to two, right? Because right now it's three of us.
All right.
All right.
So
we
the
ready?
pressure's on. So we go 1, 2, 3, and then we reveal.
One,
Right?
All right.
two,
What
three,
are
and
what
then-
are the rules? Just kidding.
Rock paper scissors knife. Wait a gato. All right. That's the Cuban version. All right, ready? All right. So, look at Erik over there. He's already got the palm of the hand, the fist on top. Clearly a professional. Is there a league? I think there is a league, by the way. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. I have a rock.
No, it's odd man out.
Come on,
You're out, Jimmy.
You're out.
Why am I out?
You lose.
Why?
You're out. It's either 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's
Ow.
odd man out on the first
Oh,
round.
well, see, I thought we were playing.
You're out.
Just
Man,
good with directions.
You see how
Ready?
you see, my wife says the same thing.
Jesus,
All right,
Jimmy.
so I'm out. All right,
Now you're out.
So Erik and Ivan, ready? Here we go.
Ready?
3, 2, 1.
Oh, wait, let's do this right here.
Go.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
So
Woo!
we've got
Number one.
scissors for Erik and paper for Ivan.
Oh.
We go best out of 3.
So
Okay,
so we already Eric's already ahead.
I've got the advantage. I'm in the A position.
Go.
So rock.
Ooh, both went rock.
Both went rock.
Go.
All right, here we go. Paper.
Both went
What
paper.
Oh,
We've known each other.
Clearly,
way too
you guys
long.
hang out with each other, right? You guys think you publish a magazine or something. Scissors
Hey!
and paper. So there
I
it
got
is.
the number one.
How did the boss
Number
win?
one.
How did the boss? Do I see what happens?
Nice.
You see, you let the boss win, and everybody wins. That's what we look at.
Woo!
And here comes Yami with
All
a
right.
little.
All right, so now let's
Dun, dun,
explain
dun,
how you two guys, the two losers, are going to get.
No,
your
I wouldn't
cigars.
call us losers. I would say we just didn't win.
All right, let's see how you guys are going to. Let me have my cigar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like that?
So can we do
Okay.
I won.
we do
I get
arm
to-
wrestling? You and me?
Not with the Northwestern Corridor
Northeastern.
champ.
Northwestern's a
No.
different guy.
All right.
What did you get?
What
I
did
got
you
the
get?
Olmec, baby. I got number one.
Man,
I
of course
know,
you
man.
did. Number one for number one.
Well, we're gonna be okay.
That's it, man.
We'll be okay.
If I get number 26, I'm not going to be happy.
Listen, honestly, no joke. You'll be happy. Well, not 26 because it's not on the list, but you'll be happy with anything that you get. All the cigars on the list are fantastic. They really are.
All right. So I get to pick one now? Oh, no.
So now you're gonna
Hear ye.
So now you guys pick out of a hat or a Bacardi tube.
There you go.
All right. I'm going in. Here we go.
Good luck.
A lot of good cigars there, Jimmy.
All right.
All right, wait.
I'll
why don't
wait- I'll wait for you.
Let Ivan get his. And
IOC.
then-
No, go ahead. You say the number. Oh. Please don't let it be un rompepecho.
Number 29. What? Ah.
Jimmy, what'd you get?
I got number 12, a Rocky Patel ALR
Wow.
second edition.
This is-
Nicely done.
I like this. This is like Christmas.
Yeah.
I like mine. I got a Davidoff Nicaragua box press
Boom.
coming in at number 11.
Look, whoa.
Yes.
You guys are doing well.
See,
You guys
see
are
how
doing
we
well
did
for
that?
yourselves. I'm gonna stick with number one though.
All right.
You got the Rocky.
That's it. Look at this. Oh, fancy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Merry Christmas.
All
And I'm
right.
taking the rest.
Yeah, Yami's got
I got
the other
rest.
22. How about Nat?
All right. So listen. So the Rocky Patel ALR second edition. All right. Made by La Tabacalera Via Cuba in Nicaragua. All right. Mexican wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, Nicaraguan filler. It's a Robusto, 5.5 by 50. Not bad. $13. Not bad at all.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? All three here, the three cigars have a Nicaraguan filler. All three of them.
It is the center of the cigar universe, it seems.
Right now, I mean, the list was very Nicaragua heavy. So your odds of getting a Nicaraguan were pretty stacked. Now, two of these, Jimmy, yours and mine, both have a Mexican wrapper. So that's also kind of interesting.
I will say this lot going on in this. I mean, I got to get through a lot of material.
You know what's really funny?
I got to get through a lot of material to get to the cigar. I mean, like half the cigar is in a label.
I know, but that is so you.
I know, right? I was
Like,
I
you're
almost,
the guy that's always talking about labels and artwork, and
by the way,
and
the,
you
the,
got
the
the
band
most
is amazing.
flamboyant.
The band is amazing. What is that? Like a rose gold?
Yeah,
with
it's
some
beautiful.
white lettering, and of course,
It's
Rocky.
totally Jim.
Of course, Rocky. Love you, Rocky.
It was perfect for you, bud.
I don't want to break the label here. I don't wanna...
Mine won Cigar of the Year in 2013.
Yep, that was a
So-
killer cigar. We got and that, by the way, the one that you have, Jimmy,
Mhm.
that one was number 2 or 3 a couple years ago.
A couple years ago, yeah.
So I mean, really, we're
We're in business here.
now this the Olmec, the Olmec Maduro. So again, like I mentioned earlier, it's a Mexican wrapper. The one that got number 1 was the 6x52 Toro. I think, are we all dealing with Toros? Well, Rocky, their Robusto is like a Robusto Extra. It's like 5.5, so it's almost a Toro. And so this cigar, I think that what made this thing so noteworthy this year is it has some characteristics that other Maduros just don't have.
Mm-hmm. Can I get a little fire there when you get a chance,
Sure.
my friend? I think I left mine in the Cigar Snob Mobile outside.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. All right. This is super box pressed, by the way.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
beautifully produced there at Rocky's Nicaraguan factory called Tabacalera Villacuba or Tabicusa. The Nicaraguan factories all have these funny acronyms. But yeah, quick. Oh, what we didn't talk about, Jimmy?
Mhm.
The we will have Nick Melillo on the show later on, right? So
course.
we are going to bring him on.
Foundation Cigars.
You guys probably heard him if you follow Cigar Snob on YouTube. You probably heard the phone call where we called to let him know that he had
Mhm.
won.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool. That was exciting.
That
So
was that was like when the guy comes for the NFL, like
Yeah.
the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he knocks on
that
your
was
door.
that was such a neat moment, because it means a lot. These guys work their butts off to make a great product and to consistently make it, and it's always good to get recognized.
So, how many cigars did you guys go through?
I couldn't even count them, honestly. It's so many, Jim. So realize that whatever scored a 91 or above throughout the year is a candidate for top 25. So it's every waking hour we are smoking.
Excluding limiteds.
That's a good point. So we do not include limited editions in our top 25 list. The idea, if you're wondering, is that we want you guys to be able to enjoy it. We want you to be able to buy it and smoke it and enjoy it. If we choose a limited edition, then the list is not actionable. You won't be able to pick it up. So thank you, Ivan, for bringing that up. We exclude limited editions. Now, some cigars are limited that are on the list, but they are an ongoing limited edition. In other words, you will be able to get it because they don't stop making it. They just make it in limited quantities. But limited, like one-off limited editions that they only make once and that's it, we exclude those from the list. So how's the Davidoff Nicaragua box pressed working?
It's very good. I was taking notes here. I mean, I'm getting a lot of like black pepper. It's woodsy. I'm getting like milk chocolate, black coffee. it's like perfect at this time that we're shooting this. It's very nice. I mean, again, I mean this. I think it was a different. It was round when
It
it
was the
won
round, yeah.
cigar of the year. This is more the box press, which I love. But it's still excellent.
Personally, I still prefer the round over the box pressed. I mean, I like them both. Obviously, that thing
I like this one.
scored very
Yeah.
high, but the round, it just has a different fullness of flavors that I enjoy more.
Yeah.
How's your ALR second
I would say
edition
the
doing?
first thing that got me, and I'm very much at the beginning here, is it's very earthy, which I enjoy. Fills up your palate. The retro hail was very smooth. I thought it would be a little,
Yeah, because it looks a little like
thought
it's
it'd be a
gonna
little harsh, but it's very good. So right now I'm getting, it's a little spicy, but not over the top spicy. I would almost kind of been doing this enough now with you. It feels like it's a little red peppery with some earth to it. It's very hearty, and not bad even for like the first cigar of the day. It's not terrible. Wrong word. It's not overpowering. It's not like, oh wow, you can't have this as a breakfast cigar. No, it's actually quite full. It's quite rich, and it's off to a very good start.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna find a lot of breakfast cigars in the top 25 list this year.
Yeah. I mean, there's times that we've had a couple sneak in there, but the issue is that once you start to compare, and that leads us to another question, right? Like, how come there's so many medium plus, and full, and then not enough mild cigars on the list? And the real reason is that as you are comparing the best of the best from the whole year, it's hard for a mild cigar to come to the table with enough flavor and complexity to combat these
Right.
full-bodied and medium plus, and full-bodied. They can't stand up to it, right? You just can't help it unless it happens to be like off the top of my head, I remember the Época. Remember that? It was made by Nat Sherman back then. The Época, which you guys maybe pronounce Epoca, as Mike Herklotz would have said.
Isn't that a town in Florida,
Yeah.
Epoca?
Epoca, Florida. The Época, that cigar climbed up to the top. The Joya de Nicaragua Antaño
Connecticut.
CT, that one climbed, right? Because they're not your everyday mild Connecticut shade cigar. It
has more tobacco in it to make it more complex.
And the other one was your favorite, the Aganorsa
Connecticut.
The
Yeah.
Aganorsa Leaf Connecticut. That one, that's a killer
Yeah.
smoke. That comes with tons of flavor and a surprising amount of body too.
Yeah, I would think that most mild cigars have an abundance of just mild tobacco in it, that they don't have the variety that something that is fuller flavor has. Like the fuller flavored cigars have more ligero and have other primings of the
There's
of
no
the tobacco.
ligero in a mild.
There is nothing like that in a mild cigar. So
I think if the pro wrestler Ric Flair had a cigar, it would be this. This almost
No
looks,
question
This
about
almost
it.
looks like a championship belt, that
No
he had
question
wrapped around
about
his
it.
waist. I actually have somebody said something to me the other day, and I wanted to ask you guys about it. I like V cuts in my cigars, and this Rocky Patel, I did a V cut with it. Somebody once told me V cuts are a no. I don't think there's ever a no, but what's the difference between a V cut? Do you have to work harder to get a draw out of a V cut? Does it not? Is it just more presentation? Because I get that a lot between straight and V cuts.
It's just a preference, because the amount, what you're trying to do is you're trying to let's back up. There's no. If you bought the cigar, you do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, because there's a punch. You can punch it in there.
Correct. So there's
a few no-nos.
There's some drawbacks. There's some drawbacks to a punch. I will tell you that. A punch, if you're punching a cigar, let's say it's a 50 ring gauge, right? A standard 50 ring gauge, and you're punching it with that thin little punch, you're not giving enough room for the smoke to flow through when you draw smoke out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is the little shoulder that's left over after your punch starts to collect some tar, especially if you smoke a little fast. If you're a fast smoker and you kind of heat up the cigar too much, you'll have that tar buildup, and by the halfway point to as you start to get to the band, it starts to become too bitter and nasty. And so and sometimes that tar buildup, you'll even taste it and you'll be like, oh my God, what is that? and it's not pleasant. And so that's the only thing I would say about a punch cut. If you like a punch though, and you'd want to prevent that, you can give it like 3. You can use the punch 3 times around the same spot to kind of give it a bigger area for the smoke to flow through. In terms of a V cut, you don't have that issue with a V cut. A V cut, you're not leaving a shoulder. But it's a matter of preference. It doesn't change that much the smoking experience. It's just you like a V cut, and that's fine.
I'll be honest with you. The reason why I do it, especially if we're all smoking the same stick, let's say, or once the label comes off, I'm the only one in my group that ever has a V cut, so I know which cigar is always mine.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the way I do it.
It's tagging your property.
Yeah, that's it. Especially when the band comes off, because then it's like, okay, sure, it's obviously if you're sitting here, it's in front of you, but sometimes you're,
I know some people that prefer V cuts and punches, and even this that somebody gave me. It's I don't know the name of it, but it makes a little like 5 incisions right into the thing. Some people don't like having that like loose tobacco in your mouth.
Sure.
Like the little bits and pieces. And by doing something that's a little bit smaller, like a V cut or punch or something like this, it prevents some of that. I don't mind the tobacco in my mouth.
Well, no, obviously if you're smoking good cigars that are long filler, that are made with long filler tobacco, like all of these are, you're not going to have tobacco in your mouth. You're not. The bits of tobacco problem is typically either you're smoking a what's called a Cuban sandwich cigar, which is a mixed filler, or you're smoking a short filler cigar, or the cigar is too dry, and when you cut it, it leaves a bunch of bits of tobacco behind. So
or sometimes it unravels. That's
if you cut too much.
If you cut right,
yeah. But in terms of like I take, and I think here at the magazine we take our cue from the guys that are making the cigars. The guys that are blending them and are tasting cigars for a living, they cut it with their fingernails.
Wow.
They literally they cut it with their fingernails, and
they just take that little cap off, and that's it.
They're usually dirty.
No, it's like the equivalent of a straight cut, but with their fingernails. And so
it's not the equivalent of a punch.
No, it's like it ends up being a straight cut. They're going.
Oh, they're going around.
Yeah, it's like just. So
I know there's some cutter manufacturers that are going, no.
I understand, and we have some, and that doesn't mean that you have to do that. It's a little bit,
it's
in
all
fact,
preferences.
It's a little dirty if you're
it's all
at a
subjective.
lounge and you're doing that, and you've been shaking hands with 17 people. Whatever, I get it, and also we like our tools, right? Us guys, we like and ladies, we like our.
The scissors are cool.
Hey,
I love scissors, but what I'm saying is what I don't like to do is make that much of a big deal between the differences of a straight and a. Now there are other things about a cut that can change your experience, right? Like, for example, there's people who cut it at an angle, which is called the Dickman cut, which is Ivan's favorite cut.
Every time I think of you, my friend.
So
here's my friend the Dickman.
You can cut it at an angle and kind of smoke it with the smoke going up
or down.
Correct, but typically people want it up because down kind of lands right on your tongue. It kind of burns your tongue, whereas up, it kind of goes up into your palate, and it's a different experience. It's kind of a cooler smoke. If you go down, then it's kind of a warmer smoke. So that's neat. I think that's something you can try for. And also like the chisel, the La Flor Dominicana chisel, was made so you can punch it from the top, and then have the smoke go up into your palate, right? There's just kind of
that's kind of weird, kind of like a pipe, right?
Yeah,
not weird, kind of interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah,
I've never heard that before. That's kind of cool. I might try that.
Yeah. So anyway, there are things. I mean, the cut affects your smoking experience. I'm not saying that it doesn't.
Sure.
What I'm saying is, let's not be stupid about it. Right. Like whatever your favorite cut is, don't poo-poo the next guy because he likes a V cut or because he likes a whatever cut, a Shuriken or a whatever. So. If you enjoy your cigar the way you're cutting it, then have at it. The only thing that I think we try to introduce is other ideas that you may want to try, but it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong.
All right. So how is the Olmec? I don't think we've talked
Yeah.
about that yet so far.
It's,
How's
well,
it
I
treating
was
you?
I was trying to get into it, but you guys were in the middle of lighting your cigars. You know, it was a different start to the show than
Right,
normal
right.
because normally all right, we're ready to light. Okay, we light and then we start the show.
Right.
In this one, we had this little game and then we ended up, you know. So
I think that's a different thing you're talking about. All right. So how is number one? Number one.
it's fantastic. So what I was trying to say earlier when you guys were messing about, it's got that earthiness, it's got the pepper, but it also has like a delicious sweet caramelly creaminess to it that is not common in a Maduro cigar. So
Yeah.
it's a Maduro with some other complexities and other nuances that are not common, and so it's not what you were expecting, right? And so you got to keep in mind that when we do these top 25 lists, we're smoking these things all blind, so we have no idea what it is, and it just keeps standing out. And you're like, wow, man, it's got the characteristics of a Maduro, but my God, it has these wonderful, unique, different notes that a Maduro typically doesn't have. So it's a cigar that just really enthralled us from we tried it for the first time in I think like August, but it wasn't in the ratings. We didn't have enough of them because they had just come out, and then we were able to finally purchase them because they hit stores after the PCA trade show, and so we got it rated. Was it in September or in November? I think it was November that we got it rated. Maybe it was September. I'm not sure. I should have looked that up beforehand. But we rated it and it was like, oh my God, this is delicious, right? We scored it a 93 in whenever we did the ratings. And then when we tasted it again, now this time along with all the other candidates for top 25, it just kept climbing. Like again, like it happens every year. Every year when we get to that point, some cigars just rise and some fall. It's really strange. Sometimes a cigar will get a 92 or a 93 during the year, and when we taste it at the end and compare it to all these other excellent cigars, it just starts dropping down the list. It happens. And then there's others that climb up the list, and it wasn't as good as when we first tried it, or like different things happen in cigars. These are a natural product.
Yeah,
right?
maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm thinking too much into this, but I know like in the movie business, you always try to release the big movies, the Oscar movies, in November and December. Maybe it's more recency bias. It's the last thing you saw, so it's what you remember. I don't know if cigar manufacturers are thinking that way, but it's got to be hard, Ivan, not to have recency bias. Like the last cigar you had maybe was the best cigar, and you forget about that smoke you had in February or March.
Some people are very conscious to these top 25 lists, but I don't think they schedule the releases around it, but they'll remind you of their good cigars once you start getting into that later part of the year.
But we do, yes, and I agree, and there is some of that, but it's not because of the recency bias so much. I think that one of the keys is that when you release the cigar later in the year, now you don't have to keep it consistent as long as something that has been around the market for a couple of years.
Humidification.
Well, no, it's literally the consistency of making this, right? When you make the cigar, there's a combination of tobaccos that goes into that.
Mm-hmm.
And so people always say, oh, as the blend change, is the blend the same? You probably heard some of this last show with Mike Herklotz. The blend is constantly changing because the blender in the cigar factory is always trying to ensure consistency. So he knows what this blend is supposed to taste like, but he cannot possibly use the same exact tobaccos because that was one harvest or whatever combination of harvest go into the cigar. And so now when he gets the next batch of tobacco from that field, that harvest, it's not the same because it rained more that year, it was sunnier that year, there was more cloud cover that year, or it was colder, and right, it changes just like grapes and wine. And so he cannot use the exact same tobacco. He just can't. So he may have to level up one harvest or down one harvest or change to another part of that field or even change to another part of the country. And so the blends are always kind of changing. That's like a little secret that I think most just regular everyday cigar smokers don't even realize that the blend is constantly changing. And so when I say that a company that releases their cigar later in the year, they don't have to manage that multi-harvest problem because they have enough tobacco to make it for the whole year and probably into the following. It's when they get in, once you're like a year later or whatever amount of time, however much tobacco you go through, that's when it starts to become an issue where now the blender has to maintain. So that's why whenever you see differences in a cigar, or when you read, let's say our comments in a rating or in a top 25, and you're like, man, I smoked that cigar, it didn't taste like that. It was stronger, it was milder, or it was more harsh, or it was like this. Give it another shot, because if we're saying that, that means that the one that we smoked now at the end of the year was that way, right? And so it's a fun thing. It's a fun little element of the cigar industry that is different. That these are a natural product and they're constantly changing. And so,
I just smoked a cigar this weekend that is one of my favorite cigars. I'm not going to mention the manufacturer, the name of the cigar, but it was very, very different from what it originally was made to, and I did not like it at all. And it's one of my favorites, and it was a totally different cigar.
It happens.
It happens.
And, so there's a cigar in the top 25. I think it was number 3. Let me look at it. Yeah. So the H. Upman Nicaragua by AJ. When that cigar was released initially a couple years ago, when it came out, when we rated it, it scored very high. And I remember internally we're like, this is gonna be a candidate. There's no question, because this cigar is fantastic. And when we tasted it again at the end of the year, it wasn't the same. It was still very good, but it wasn't at that level. And then this year, we rated it like in January, and it was absolutely delicious. And it was back to what it was when we originally thought it was going to be a candidate. And sure enough, we tasted it at the end of the year, and there it is. It's number 3 on the list. And you probably haven't smoked that cigar in a couple of years, because it came out and it was hot for a minute, and then it died down.
Yeah.
And I would say give that a try again, because that was so good at the end of this year of 2022. It was outrageously good. It was creamy and smooth. And so anyway, cigars are constantly changing. And so you have to give them a shot. Sometimes give them a chance to come back, or you miss out on a great experience with a great cigar.
Well, I don't want to miss out on our perfect pairing taste, because I'm flying through this ALR. It is so good. So let's set up for our perfect pairing. But first, my man, you've got something for me from Villiger.
I'll tell you a cigar that's always great and doesn't change. It's the new Villiger do Brasil. Handcrafted entirely from the finest of Brazilian tobaccos, the Villiger do Brasil shines the spotlight on the unique characteristics of tobaccos grown in the legendary Bahia region. It's one of the most fertile regions of Brazil, known for the cultivation of oranges, sugarcane, and coffee. This region is also known for another top-class product, fine tobacco. Villiger Cigars harvest their own tobacco here on the company's own fields, and only the best torcedores are selected to roll these puros elaborately by hand. The Villiger do Brasil is truly a luxury product for demanding aficionados. As the company's chairman, Heinrich Villiger, emphasizes, we control the entire manufacturing process to guarantee excellent quality, from the tobacco seeds to the perfect cigar. The Villiger do Brasil is offered in 2 different wrappers, a Maduro and a Connecticut named the Claro. The Maduro line is covered in an alluring Arapiraca wrapper and offers a robust, medium full body with strong aromas and bold flavors of leather, fruit, cocoa, and espresso bean. Cloaked in an elegant Bahia-grown Connecticut seed wrapper, the Villiger do Brasil Claro offers a satisfying medium body and robust aroma and flavors of sweet cedar, coffee, and pepper. The Claro is refined smoke with exotic, eye-opening character. The Villiger do Brasil is available in both a Robusto and a Toro size. So if you find yourself looking for the perfect cigar, go reach for a Villiger do Brasil. Go out and try one today.
I love it. You always sell me on that, man. I love it.
I'm glad.
I was in a lounge the other day, and I saw Villiger, and I said,
you gotta do it.
I'm gonna grab one.
Gotta do it.
A nice little smoky treat.
You never call me for these, man. If you're ever in a lounge, and you gotta call me.
All right,
up.
I will next time.
All right.
Keep tomorrow open. Keep tomorrow open.
All right.
All right. Now we're gonna get into a little rum. It's a rum day.
And now, perfect pairings, brought to you by Total Wine and More.
Bring out the booze.
Thanks, Jasper. You know, Jasper keeps telling me about this, and I'm finally going to have it. A little Zafra rum.
Yeah, so this is so we're not doing a blind or anything like that today. Today is celebration day. And when you're celebrating and you feel like celebrating with rum,
Celebrate good times.
the
come on.
Zafra 30, it's a killer
Oh
rum.
my God. Smells
Um,
amazing.
It's unbelievable.
Not passing the test, not getting the job.
No. So this is
No way. Look at that thing. It is dark.
yeah, so this one's from the 2016 limited edition. This is bottle 2056 of 7,920.
Mm.
Yeah, this is, you know, if you like rum, this is one where you kind of treat yourself.
And if you don't like rum, you're going to like it after this.
I think so. It's just so freaking delicious, right? And by the way, I have not found a cigar that goes poorly with this.
Oh, there it
I'm
is.
not joking.
Gauntlet. Bum, bum, bum.
Yep.
It's outrageous.
Well, first of all, I mean, I could just sit here and smell it all day.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So the regular Zafra, the Zafra 21, is also excellent.
Very, very good.
But this just goes to another level.
All right. So before we get into it, how is everybody's smoky treat? How you doing over there, Ivan?
Let me see.
Yeah, I had to stop to pour your glasses out.
It's gotten, I think the peppers are showing through a little bit more since when I first started, but it's still very creamy. It's been consistent. I get some vanilla out of it now.
And you're smoking which one again?
The Davidoff Nicaragua box press. But I think the test will now come with the rum.
How about you, Jim? How's the Rocky ALR
I
treating
mean,
you?
it is. I've lost a little bit of the earthiness, so it's not as not bitter, but it's not as it's very smooth now. I mean, it is in cruising altitude. I mean, I'm walking about the cabin. The flight attendants are serving drinks. We are smooth sailing, man. I could see the Rocky Mountains. I could see everything. It is just and the retrohale, Dios mío, chef's kiss.
Yeah.
It is so good right now.
Yeah, and that, you know, one of the characters, people ask me all the time, how do you gauge the quality of a cigar? And when it gets to that level up here in the top 25 list, right, your complexity and the transitions that the cigar goes through are also part of it, right? So
Yeah.
you can have a cigar that tastes great and it just tastes great all the way through, and you're like, oh, that was really nice, but it was kind of boring, right? When a cigar does a transition and it goes through all these changes, and they're pleasant changes.
Yeah, like I was just about to say, I'm almost getting a hint, and maybe my little palate is starting to.
Grow up a little.
I'm not on tummy time anymore. Maybe I'm crawling now. Now, I'm getting like some sweetness. I'm getting a little
Sure,
bit
you
of
should.
sweetness
Absolutely.
now. And I was like, is that sweet? I mean, I had to take another puff just to make sure.
The ALR is one of my favorite Rocky
Oh,
cigars for sure.
it's the sweetness is really starting to come out. I'm about halfway through it right now, and it's so good with the V cut, by the way. Mhm. All right, so let's get the Zafra involved in the conversation here. All right.
Do you know how much the MSRP is on the
I'll look it up.
Zafra?
There's a lot of dead air right now. You guys are
A lot of enjoying going on.
Wow, this is
Excellent. It's liquid candy.
This is just forget it. I'm taking my shoes off and see you later, buddy.
Yeah, I knew that when we said, hey, let's just celebrate the top 25. Like I know what we're gonna drink.
What it feels like you're biting into like a crisp apple almost, and then it kind of finishes with a little bit of heat. So it kind of does a little turnaround on you, but it's so good. And then it leaves such a nice little aftertaste in your mouth.
Yeah, it's not the typical rum that most people drink. This is something.
Yeah. So you asked
from
about
another
MSRP.
world.
It's a $210 bottle.
So, bueno.
Yeah, it's not a cheap rum, but I tell you,
It's worth it.
It is worth it. There's no question about it.
So when the family and everyone's gone after the holidays and you got a little quiet, then you bust this out for yourself. Right? No el tío A that comes in once a year. Forget that guy.
Empties out your bottle. Yeah.
So good.
So, Ivan, how is it working with the cigar? Again, I've never found a cigar that doesn't go well with it.
Well, the streak continues.
The sweetness from the rum takes the peppers from the cigars, and it kind of like gives it like this new like characteristic. So it seems like its own like little flavor, which that's excellent. It's like a sweet pepper. I don't know what it is, but it's delicious.
You know, in my pairing here with the Olmec, so the Olmec kind of cuts the sweetness a little bit of the rum, and it makes it, which for me is great. I love Zafra. I like that style of rum, but I also love like drier rums. And so when you have it with the Olmec, it's almost like you can have two rums, right? If you take a puff and then take a sip, the rum's sweetness is cut by a tiny margin, but still cut. And if you go the other way, you have that the rum sweetness brings in that sweetness into the cigar. It's really, really nice.
For me, if you notice, the first time I had the Zafra, there was some heat at the end of it. That's what I got. After having the Rocky Patel, and I took a puff first, and then I drank the Zafra, it cuts the heat at the end and almost brings out more of like a fruity, flavorful little aftertaste. It really complements it well. Really complements it. The finish is amazing. Finishes, and I'm going to do it the other way where I drink and then puff, but puffing first and then drinking, sensational.
What occasion would you have that pairing right there?
Oh my gosh. I mean, this is
Is this pre-party or post?
See, my problem is, you don't want to kill this $200 bottle of wine. It's a bottle of rum right out of the gate. I mean, to me, this almost feels like it's definitely an accomplishment, whether it's that promotion, whether it's you landed that big account, the engagement. I think it's a small group. Not necessarily a house party per se, but if your kid comes home and says, "Hey, we're engaged," or we landed that big account we've been chasing for 10 months. I think this is what you're doing.
I have maybe 10 or so bottles that I have for those like special occasions. I just haven't had any successes to drink.
You're such a jerk.
So I just keep piling them up.
No, I think this wine. You said wine and you left me with wine in the head. This rum is, like I've said before, it's just a perfect. It's opulent. It tastes.
It's elegant.
Yeah, it
luxurious.
It tastes luxurious. Definitely, that's a good word for it. And so for like when I see you, Jim, with the again opulent label of the Rocky Patel ALR,
you look expensive.
And this you
look expensive.
I am expensive.
I know.
It's like you remember that it was like a DirecTV commercial with the Russian. It was like
everything was
opulent.
gold.
I
has it. I love that.
Has it.
That's Jimmy right now. Jimmy is the Russian it was like a baby giraffe or something the guy had on his lap.
I will say this: I did the opposite, where I drank the Zafra and then I puffed, and it was a lot sweeter this time around.
Yeah, of course.
So, if you're not into super sweet, I would recommend doing it the other way: puff and then drink. But if you like the sweetness, drink and then puff. So you get,
yeah,
you get to
like I said, it's like having two rums in one.
Yeah. Oh, so
Nat,
good.
how you liking yours? Okay over there.
Nat has no mic.
No,
She doesn't
but
need
gave
it.
us.
But
She gave
got
us.
the-
this.
Yeah.
She gave us the thumbs up, man. Some good stuff, man. So, it's a celebratory edition of the Cigar Snob Magazine podcast. We're going through the top 25. We're celebrating with some, cigarsnob.com, top 25. It's on the homepage. You can check it out. And we got a chance to talk to the guy responsible for the number one.
For the number one, yep.
So, as always, we want to thank Total Wine and More. That's what Perfect Pairings is brought to you by. We're always going to find the right bottle at the right price with their lowest price guarantee. You can visit Total Wine and More at totalwine.com. Let's step aside and let's bring in our guy from Foundation Cigars. Nick, what's going on?
There he is. There's the man. What's happening, Nick?
Good to see you,
Congratulations,
Erik.
brother.
Thank you very much. Very exciting. Very, very
Yeah,
exciting.
man. Congrats. That,
This is a great
that's a
honor for
cigar.
me.
Yeah. Tell me, how was it? How does it feel?
It feels amazing, man. I mean, number one is a great feeling, to see your work. I put my whole life into the cigar world and foundation. So to get the recognition and to see someone honor your work with a number one is a true honor. So I don't always necessarily pay attention to too much leading up to the awards and think about it too much, because I'm so busy all the time and I'm so focused on accomplishing the tasks at hand.
Yeah.
So when I got the call from you, I was actually sitting down in my 2023 rep meetings, and I was sitting in my literally just sit down, and I saw your call come through, and I had been watching, the top 10 come through. So when I saw your call, I definitely got the chills.
Yeah, that was fun, man. I'm glad we were able to capture that in that reel that we did.
I'm so glad you recorded that conversation. That was great. My brother really enjoyed that. He said, "I'm so glad they recorded that conversation."
Yeah, man. We've never done that, and so it felt so good. And thankfully, I was like, wait a minute, I have to ask Nick for permission if we can run this.
I'm glad I didn't say anything too ridiculous. Yeah.
We would have.
I apologize for calling you dude too many times. I think I used the word dude too many times.
No, that was great, man. That was great. So let's kind of get into this cigar, right? So I'm smoking the Olmec Claro. I don't have any Maduros left. We smoked the bejesus out of those. So you got the right one.
I got to get you some Maduros.
I would appreciate it. They're kind of hard to come by right now.
They're shipping. We can get into that, but they're just we got a shipment leaving actually today. I'm here in Esteli reviewing production, and we have a shipment actually leaving for Managua today. So it should leave for the States tomorrow, and we should hopefully start getting some back orders fulfilled and whatnot. So I'll get you some sticks.
Nice. Well, yeah, and by the time this airs, so this episode, we're recording it now, but it'll be a few days, probably next week, early next week when it'll hit. So
cool. Maybe
the timing will be right where people can go out and find them again.
Yeah.
So very exciting. So tell us about that Olmec. That Olmec brand, did the idea come from, did you come across this tobacco and then say, oh my God, I need to celebrate this tobacco with the culture for it? Or did you come at it from your history buff that you are? Did you come at it from the Olmec culture and say, oh, I'd love to make a cigar about the Olmecs, and then find a tobacco?
So I've always been interested in the Olmecs, and I started going to Mexico for tobacco purchasing, I want to say 05, 06. So I was always aware of the Olmec culture because I would travel to San Andreas outside of Veracruz, and it was always known that this was the same area of the Olmecs. And there was an old tobacco farmer that had given me a book called The Smoking Gods, which was mainly focused on the Mayan culture and tobacco, but it hinted about the Olmec civilization. So I was always aware of the Olmecs. And then I was with my buddy Abdel Fernandez over at the factory, and we were reviewing San Andreas Mexican, and just the work he's been doing in San Andreas with the farmers he's been working with, and then the fermentation process that he was undertaking here was very different. See, in Mexico, they ferment tobacco a bit differently than we do here in, say, Nicaragua, Honduras, or the Dominican. And they also prime the tobacco in the field differently. Traditionally in Mexico, they're priming only 2 primings. So they go in and they remove half of the plant, and then they'll go in again and remove the upper half of the plant.
Okay.
And then they go into 10 to 12,000 pound fermentation piles, which are very large than what we're accustomed to
Yeah.
here in Nicaragua. Usually here in Nicaragua, we're about 7,000, 8,000 pounds. So what they do that for is because they can get the temperatures up and the tobacco can be fermented a little bit faster and then kind of enter the market a little bit faster. It's not bad. It's just a little bit quicker process. Of course, here, when we're trying to make super premium, top quality cigars, we want to slow down that fermentation process. Why? Because we're trying to preserve the natural oils of the leaf, which in turn, in my opinion, produces a lot more flavor and body and strength. Whereas I always compare it to, my grandmother's pasta sauce. The difference between opening up a can, throwing it on the stove and heating it, compared to my grandmother, best ingredients, low temperatures for 6-8 hours all day.
Right.
Because what happens is once you turn up those temperatures, and when it's the same with fermentation. If you get those temperatures too high, the same thing when you're cooking, if you turn the temperatures up too much and you get the boil going, what happens? It starts evaporating.
Yeah.
So if you left it on the stove for too long at too high a temperature, eventually it's all going to be gone and you're going to lose all that flavor. So, working with Abdel, that tobacco sent, it's not fermented there in Mexico. It's sent from the farms and then it starts going through a very slow fermentation here in Nicaragua.
So to clarify that, so the difference is traditionally the tobacco gets harvested, cured, and fermented in Mexico and then shipped. And then usually probably there's like another additional fermentation at a factory in Nicaragua or wherever.
Correct.
And so now what you're saying is it got harvested, cured, and then no fermentation. All of it will be handled in Nicaragua.
All of it's handled here in Nicaragua.
That's AJ's process. Is that something that he is doing now that he wasn't doing before?
I think before a lot of people weren't doing it that way. I actually had worked with Oliva Tampa on a project in Mexico doing it that way. And I don't know who really started it first, but it's now become more common for people purchasing to have it sent here and then fermented at the way we do it here in Nicaragua at lower temperatures. And it also depends on what product it's going on, right?
Of course.
If it's going on a bundled product that's intended for, online or less inexpensive, you're not going to do it the same way. Because again, the price points of, and the time and money that's you're investing. So it depends on what product the tobacco is going on, which way you will do it. But, working with Abdel.
You were telling the story. So you were with Abdel and let's go back to where you were.
And, Abdel and I just really hit it off from the beginning because I come from the Drew Estate operation and the size of that operation very similar to Abdel's operation and just his inventories of tobacco. And we worked on some projects, to get tobacco projects, Connecticut broadleaf together. So we really, his passion for tobacco is unprecedented. So reviewing the San Andreas, just when we get into it, we're like two little kids in a candy store looking at this leaf. And once I saw it and then tasted it, and then also tasted the Claro, I fell in love with it. And that began the idea of forming a brand and a blend around. So it definitely did start with that tobacco. First and foremost is that San Andreas. And I don't see many people that use the Claro wrapper,
No.
and
yeah, you're right.
Those who know tobacco, when you're going in and you're purchasing crops, you get the whole cow. So where everybody wants the Maduro all the time, you have to deal with the whole cow. So, I didn't want to just cherry pick all the Maduro, but I also, again, want to have the options for people that don't like Maduros and like something of more of a Claro wrapper. And I don't see many San Andreas Claro wrappers on the marketplace. And the tobacco is just so interesting and unique, even though it's coming from the same plant, which we can get into the difference.
Well, that's what. You were actually you were going to let me segue into that question, because the Claro, it's San Andrés Claro, is not actually Claro by the general term Claro, right? It's Claro for it's Mexico San Andrés Negro and San Andrés Claro,
right.
But their Claro is not exactly Claro. In fact, it's quite dark. I mean, if you look at it there, it's a pretty dark Claro.
You're going to get variation.
Yeah.
So you are going to see amongst the Olmecs on the market, you will see a variation. You'll see a variation amongst the Maduro, but also the Claro. So you will get Claros that are definitely leaning more towards that cafe, that Colorado cafe, leaning towards that Maduro, and then you'll get Maduro, and then you'll get Oscuro.
Yep.
And that's just, again, the nature of the plant and working with the whole crop, right? Because you're going to have,
I'm going to interrupt here real quick, because I think that, so there's a lot of Maduros out there that look like the color of your shirt, right? A lot. And they're so uniform, and it's like, for me, it's refreshing when I see a Maduro that has variation, that isn't all super, super dark. And there's some of it that is because, that means that you didn't. This is the way I view the world. When I see a Maduro that isn't quite as dark as that, but it is still a Maduro, that means to me that you didn't over process it or use another accelerant or do any sort of color enhancement. This is natural. It's a natural Maduro.
Exactly.
So to me, it's refreshing when I see that variation. It's like, these are real Maduros. Like there's no doctoring here.
Yeah. And that's the tough thing, because the market sometimes wants to have, the perfect, that's the difficult thing about growing wrapper tobaccos is the aesthetics of it. I tend to not care as much as the aesthetics, and am more concerned about the oil and flavor and the fermentation process. And you'll see that also on my Tabernacle. I mean, they're rustic, they're veiny. To me personally, that's just how I am as a smoker. I will, not care as much as aesthetics, and if the cigar is on point as far as flavor, combustion, a little blemish here or a thicker vein, for me, is not a big deal. What's a big deal is, okay, is the flavor on point? Is it fermented properly? Is it smoking properly? Unfortunately, sometimes the market is, looking, in my opinion, too extreme sometimes on the aesthetic side.
Yeah.
And when you deal with Maduros, I mean, you can't be overly.
I know, and I'll take a little bit of the blame for the media side, because the looks of the cigar do factor in, right? It is 100%, a component 100%. of that rating. It's not as nearly as important as flavor and aroma and strength, let's say, but and combustion, obviously, but it is a component, right? And so 100%. You can't have an ugly cigar have a super high score. It can have a high score, but it maybe not end up as cigar of the year. It's very rare that an ugly cigar ends up that high in the conversation there.
True. But you understand Maduro, the nature of Maduros, just in general. I mean, it's not going to be like a pristine Connecticut shade all the time.
No, it's not. Or even like those beautiful, like AJ just makes he makes a beautiful
Habano Ecuador does.
Yeah, that's for it's like a painting. You look at it and it's like, Jesus, this is a work of art. And they're making them nonstop, and each one is a work of art. So that speaks to AJ's insane level of quality. The guy is a complete nut in a good way. And so now you guys worked on this blend quite a bit.
So
right?
I worked on so he basically opens his doors to me, and I go wild. So I'm just locked in a room, and I end up going through and selecting bales for the filler tobacco. We're going through to make sure we have, consistent filler for, a core production, so I'm not using tobaccos that there's only 2 bales of, and we can only make 100 boxes. So I end up going through and selecting, all of the tobaccos, and then I'm locked in a room, and it's just me, my chaveta, my tabla, and I just begin the blending process. So AJ just sort of leaves me alone, and really just opens his doors to me, and has made his factory a home within a home for me. So, and he knows, again, I come from that, running a factory of that size, and he knows I know what I'm doing. So he also doesn't want to show me any leaf that he would find, I think, embarrassing to him, because he's always trying to impress me, which is great.
That's beautiful. And so,
Yes.
talk us through a little bit of that blending process. So you created let's say you create a couple of different blends, and then you take those with you, and then you revisit it. You let those dry a little bit. How does that go?
So now, at this point in my career, my process usually starts with, I'm in 7 blends, right? So I'll start with the 7 blends that I'll start with base blends. Usually, I mean, even before that happens, I'm starting with component. So I'm testing individual components of secos, visos, ligeros, different seed varieties, different farms. So I'll kind of begin there, inspecting bales, kind of seeing, where I'm at, binder selections from the same different seed varieties, different farms. And then I start usually with 7 blends. And I typically always start in a 6x52 Toro size. Toro, when I started smoking cigars, I started, in the industry in 96. Toro for me was always my size, because for me it was that perfect ring gauge and length where I felt really encompassed the fullness of what those blends or that line had to offer. So when I started here in Nicaragua and started blending, oh my God, it's almost 20 years ago now. I can't believe this. Can I swear on this show or no?
Yeah, man, it's an adult show.
I can't believe this shit. I always started in the 6x52. So I do a 6x52, and then I start within 7 blends. I'll start smoking without wrapper, and then I'll start to add the wrapper. Okay. And then within those 7 blends, I'll end up making, say, 5 to 10 sticks, and then I'll just sit for, smoking through all of those.
And that's literally you making them, right? You don't have a roller with you. That's you making those.
I do them all. My skill level with bunching, I wouldn't put myself up there amongst, Pepin or anyone. And speed is not my thing, because I'm fortunate I don't have to roll 300 cigars a day.
Yeah.
So my rolling for both bunching and wrapper is much slower, and it's more rustic in the sense that I do not use molds to start. So I've been able to now roll cigars without molds and have them, with wrapper at a really, do it pretty well. Just over time. And I roll, a lot of what we call tabaqueados is what we use to roll the individual components. So it's just me. Again, no molds. I have a chaveta. I have a cortador.
A tabla, and that's it.
My tabla and my goma. And I start rolling there. And then I start adding the wrapper. Usually I'm not doing head construction, pajuelos, of course. And I'm just, it's the really fun part of my job. This is business for us a lot of times. And, smoking becomes more of I'm testing for quality. But, being able to sit and be by myself and really just be with amazing tobaccos and start the blending process is something I very passionate about. And I don't let many people into the world because I've definitely developed techniques, Erik, over the years that I've noticed for myself in the blending process with tobaccos that tend to work for me. So different styles of how tobaccos are combined together, different areas. It doesn't ring true always, but there's definitely different techniques that I've developed over the years that I find really work when it
Wow.
comes to blend.
That's interesting. So now, would you say that you worked harder on this blend, or like how does that go? Because I mean, listen, all of your cigars, we smoke a lot of your cigars here, and we're big fans of it. It always scores high. So we're fans, but this cigar was at another level. So what do you attribute that to? Is it hard work? Is it extra time that you put into it, or is it that tobacco? And if it is that tobacco, then how can you replicate that next year or next batch? Or
It's hard work. It's passion. It's love for the leaf. I think on this project, because this is our first core line release, really since I want to say 2019 or 2018, I want to say we came out with Tabernacle Havana Seed, the 142. So this was a new core release for the first time in a while. I mean, we've done some line extensions or say wrapper extensions. High Claire, we had the High Claire, the blue, the Edwardian, then we came out with the Victorian. But this wasn't a line extension or a wrapper extension. This was a new core line. So I knew I wanted to be something that was very impressive for the market. And I knew it had to be something special. You know how competitive this market is. You know how much expectation is built up on new. Sometimes it's tough because there's so much expectation that's built up on new products. People, you end up generating this buzz, which is great, but at the same time, the mental state starts getting, into these regions of expectations that sometimes are difficult to meet. So I just knew how much expectation is always built up, and that this cigar had to really stand on its own and really make an impact. And when people smoked it, they have to wow, I want to smoke this. And I know when I'm on the right track because I have to feel that way. I have to smoke that cigar and I have to be burning my fingers, and then I have to be wanting to light another one up. I want to be dreaming about that cigar. I want to be, all about it. And I have to feel that way in order for it to make it in the box. And yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, but there's always, you're tasting the cigar down there fresh off your table. And then we know how much cigars change from the table, till they get into the box, till they get into the retailer. So how do you mitigate that?
So, again, through experience, I've been able to really understand tobaccos more and their evolution through the aging process. But at the same time, you never do know until they're finally aged out. So I do have to be able to tweak them and get them to a place within the first day where I'm kind of the first day, you're really getting a sense of what that blend is going to be. The difference, in my opinion, a lot of times is when you're usually putting that wrapper on. For example, the San Andreas is a dark, for the Maduro especially, is a darker, heavier leaf. You have to work with it very moist when you're rolling it, right? The filler tobaccos are very dry.
Yeah.
They're in an 8 to 10% moisture content. The wrappers up above 25%. It's sometimes sopping wet. So once you apply that wrapper, all of that filler tobacco is absorbing all of the moisture. All that filler takes that moisture from the wrapper. And that moisture tends to, in my opinion, some people have different opinions, as you know, Erik, on these subject matters. For me, it sometimes mutes a lot of the strength of the blend because there's so much moisture. So what you're tasting is more of this humidity, and it's kind of muting a lot of the strength of it. So you really, it's more difficult sometimes with those Maduros, in my opinion, until you do have them 30, 45 days aged out and that moisture comes out of them. So that is part of my process is in order to know I'm 100% on 110% on the right track, is then giving these cigars age and then smoking them. I usually do it in that 45-day mark. So where I'm smoking them, but I have a really good feel of where I'm at on that blending day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You're on the path, but
correct. So then it's not until those aging, you're at that aging time, that moisture is more removed, that you really have a great sense. And as I made a few adjustments to the blend, and then I'm at that 45 days, and then I do take them to the States and smoke them, because we have something that is known down here as, I don't know where this name came, the Honduran effect. That's where the cigars, when you smoke them down here and then you take them to the States, completely different. And again, it depends on where you're smoking them in the States. I mean, and the moisture content if you're smoking them in Colorado at 15% moisture content,
it's very different than being here in Miami.
Very different. This cigar, Erik, when we released it in Vegas at the trade show, you're at 10% moisture content in Vegas.
Yeah.
When you're smoking, especially a blend that has heavier leaf, visos ligeros, if you're smoking those cigars and that tobacco is on the drier side, it completely changes the blend, the dynamics of the blend. It's going to smoke hotter. It's going to smoke more aggressive. It's dried leaves. If they're drier, they're going to burn hotter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. So you definitely have to take that into account. And here, in Nicaragua, even in the dry season, you're in the 60% humidity level. I mean, even if it's dry. Whereas, so I always do take them, back to the offices in Connecticut, and smoke them and make sure. And, that's when I knew I had something special, is when I took it back. I'm in my office on the Connecticut side. They've had the proper aging time. And then, you just hope the market receives it as much as you love it,
Yeah. Man, it's funny. The cigar from the second we tasted it, we're like, well, there's your candidate. Like that's going to be a candidate.
Up there. Yeah.
We knew, but still, it has to kind of run a gauntlet, right? And
it's got to run a gauntlet, man. And then it's got to have the other elements, right? It's got to have the packaging side. It's got to have the branding side. It had, I
that's
think
for you, right? For us,
it
doesn't have to have any of that. But for you, it does. Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
So then,
but I think
that's a good segue. Let's get to that. So when you've got the blend, and now you want to give it a story or a packaging or a branding that is fitting of this blend that you've created. At what point did you already know this is going to be Olmec?
So it started happening simultaneously. So really after I knew that San Andreas was going to be the way to go, where I wanted to go as far as the wrapper leaf, I knew I wanted to start building a story based around this amazing tobacco that many people will get upset with me. The San Andreas Negro seed predates, from what I've researched, the Habanesis Cuban seed, and is one of the oldest seed varieties in the world. I'm always looking for things, as you see in the rest of my brands, is really paying homage to, a culture, or whether it be something I'm really passionate about, but I always try to tie it into, of course, tobacco history and the history of cigars. So I kind of started working at it simultaneously, right? After I had, as I'm blending, the idea for, oh, wait a second, Olmec. Wait a second, where the Olmecs are from? Oh, Olmecs are from San Andreas, Tuxtla, San Lorenzo. Oh, wait a second. The Olmecs were the first to use tobacco that we know. They predate the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Incas. So that journey started, and I just got deeper and deeper into the research of the Olmec culture. And of course, you begin trademarking in this industry is absolutely insane. So you have to start that process, because the last thing you want to do is start a project then, that somebody else is using, God forbid, or, something you don't know about. So then that process started. And then my art director here in Nicaragua, his name is Alex Garcia. He's been a good friend of mine for the past 20 years. And we have very similar interests in history and culture. And I brought the idea to him, and, the colossal heads of the Olmec are just something that are mysterious. Yeah, some people don't realize, what that image on the band really is. And I mean, these colossal heads began to be discovered in the late 30s, 40s, where they just started uncovering these gigantic heads, and
they didn't know what the hell they were.
They didn't know what the hell they were. They knew of the Mayan cultures. We knew of Incas and Aztecs in Central and South America, but these were not any of those.
Mm-hmm.
And they discovered this whole other culture, which is really mysterious, and not much is known. What we do know of them is that they were the first pyramid builders, which is pretty incredible. They have pyramids in San Lorenzo that are not even completely excavated yet. They are the first calendar makers. So all of the Mayan calendars are actually all based off of the Olmec calendars. I mean, there's a very famous, the Mayan calendars are pretty well known.
Yeah, the end of days situation. Yeah,
2012 was the end of days. That is all based on Olmec astronomy and mathematics, and then their use of tobacco is, predates that of Mayans. And we don't know really how far back tobacco use goes. I would say, it's generally accepted that it goes back to about 3000 BC, but these things are debatable.
Yeah,
definitely in academics. So, I mean, many argue that the Olmec culture could possibly go back to the end of the last ice age, but that's a very controversial.
Oh yeah, if you were in academia, you would be banned right
Outcast.
Now. Like our Zoom call would just drop, and we wouldn't. But let me ask you something about this. So the colossal head that is on the band,
yes,
has a cigar in his mouth.
Yes.
So that part you obviously added on, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
that is.
There is no image. There is no colossal head with the cigar coming out.
No, but that image of a cigar was found on different sites in the area.
The same type of image here?
That image right there, as far as I know, is the oldest image of a cigar that we know of from my research. Could it change? I think it could change. As far as what I've researched, that image is really what you're seeing too, is smoke coming out of the end.
Yeah.
And then the cigar, which looks like they potentially used maize.
Yeah, corn husk. Yep.
Corn husk was used to smoke tobacco, and then it was tied, possibly. So as far as I know, that is the oldest image of a cigar. So I thought that was a good combination, and to give it our own, unique foundation touch. And then when you see the box, the piece of cedar, I put that image of the cigar there on the cedar when you open the box. It was so cool. I didn't really realize that, this was the oldest image of the cigar as I'm doing all this research. Again, perfect. I mean,
It's crazy because it coincides with, this whole like that Netflix special, Ancient Apocalypse, and Joe Rogan talking to Graham Hancock about that stuff. And so there's all of this talk, and then right in the middle of that, you release this, which is very interesting and very fortuitous for you that worked out that way. I also love that, although you are, let's say, paying homage to a Mexican culture or a Central America, the colors on it are not of a particular color. This was pre-Mexico, right? So to put Mexican colors on it would have been, kind of silly. And so I thought the color scheme that you guys used on that is perfect. And
if you see around the band, Erik, there's a frame across the top. Yeah. And then there's two marks. That's actually from an old Olmec temple. The actual border along the top of that band.
So we're talking that right.
Those lines right there, on the top and the bottom, those come from the border of an Olmec temple. So those are actually
that's awesome.
Taken right from a temple. But I mean the colors definitely I wanted to do something a little bit different. I mean, gold foil on bands, I just always love. That color orange, I wasn't sure, how people would respond, but when I, saw it on the product and on the Claro and on the Oscuro and then the full package in the box, it was,
it looks spectacular, man. It's really well done. And kudos to you guys. I mean, you hit it obviously with the blend and the packaging to fit with it. I think that the only issue that I see is when the wrappers get really close to each other in color. I don't know if the store ran out of Maduro and is like picking the darkest Claros and putting them in the Maduro box. That's my only concern as a consumer, let's say.
Yeah, that is a concern. There have been, when it comes down, to the packaging side of things too here. Color sorting is all on the eye of the beholder. They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So sometimes that line, that's actually one of the things I'm going over while I'm down here, so we can get more of a defined line to where that line is, to make sure that there is no, issues between that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's worth talking about it. Maybe it's worth you explaining how the color sorting process happens, so that you can kind of get why it is so difficult.
Yeah, I mean, because of, again, there's that line there between the upper and lower primings where you're getting more into the middle viso areas of the plant, and that's where classifications can kind of go either way, right? So it can kind of go up or it can go down, or is it a Claro, or is it a there actually should be, and now I understand more why some of these older brands, I don't know if you remember the old brands of, say, Joya de Monterrey, of Punch, they had Claro, Colorado Claro, Colorado Maduro, and extra Oscuro.
Yeah.
So that we used to sell, in the store back in the 90s, everything was classified that way.
Yeah.
That's really difficult when it comes down to, the packaging, so we just keep it Claro and Maduro. So in that, you're getting some kind of crossover. The difference, so the Claro and the Maduro, when this tobacco is cured in the curing barns, right? So it comes off the fields and it's going into the Casa de Curación in Mexico. A lot of farmers in Mexico are using a hard wood in the barns to help regulate moisture content.
Yep.
Some places in Connecticut, they still use charcoal.
Yep.
A lot of people are using propane,
Yep.
which is much more efficient. But in Mexico,
Easier to control.
correct. In
Yeah.
Mexico, it's more rustic, and a lot of these hardwoods are used. So in that process, you're getting the tobacco when you get it out of the curing barn, and we receive it, and it's starting to go into sorting and selection, and then into fermentation. It has a very smoky, woody
Yeah.
characteristic to it. I mean, it's got that really smoky and woody. That's what
Yeah.
it smells with. It smells like.
Make tobacco.
So,
Pre-smoked.
correct. So when you're going into fermentation, the upper primings, the visos, the ligeros, they're thicker, of course. So they go longer in fermentation because they have much thicker cellular walls. They take a lot more time. They end up losing a lot more of that smoky characteristic because it goes through fermentation, and it gets, in my opinion, more sweeter. Right?
Okay.
That Maduro, it's ripening more, it's going
Yeah.
through fermentation. Whereas the Claro are coming again more from the lower primings. It's thinner. It's not going through as long as fermentation compared to the upper primings. So it ends up maintaining, in my opinion, more of that smoky characteristic from the wood in the curing barns. So I really feel it kind of takes on some of those flavor profiles. And really kind of distinguishes it between, the Maduro side of things. If
So
that makes sense.
yeah, of course it does. So let's talk a little bit about that. So there is that difference, but then also, is the blend the exact same blend from the Claro to the Maduro?
So
Is
the
it the exact same
Claro,
blend with a different wrapper, or is it a difference?
they are similar tobaccos. The Claro is toned down just a little bit as far as strength with a certain with the Viso and Ligero. It's kicked down a notch, right? Because again, when I'm in the blending process, the Maduros, again, in my opinion, from tasting the blends, the thicker, heavier leaf ends up buffering out the strength of some of the filler leaves, right?
Okay. Yeah.
As compared with the lower priming and the Claro, it can be more aggressive. So I ended up toning down the Claro a bit so it wasn't overly aggressive, because it's a stronger blend. I mean, it's predominantly Visos and Ligeros, right?
Yeah.
The key is the balance of the blend.
Yeah,
And
it doesn't hit you like a strong cigar when you're smoking it. It hits you later, which is beautiful.
There you go. And people you got to be careful sometimes, because some guys are, oh no, it's not that strong.
Not that strong, yeah.
You end up feeling it with time, because it is using a lot of really, heavy, higher priming tobaccos. So you got to be careful, that I wanted to be careful that it wasn't overly aggressive on the Claro side. So it's toned down a bit to accommodate for the Claro.
Man, both are beautiful blends. I mean, we happen to rate, people were asking us when the news came out, like, oh my God, how can you do the Maduro when the Claro is so good? And you're like, well, we happen to rate the Maduro. We didn't rate the Claro. And so I don't know if the Claro would have won if it would have been rated instead of the Maduro. But what we rated was a Maduro, and it was outrageous. But yeah, I'm smoking the Claro, and it's absolutely delicious as well.
But it's different, right?
It is different.
And it's unique.
That caramel, like the Maduro has like it's crazy because you don't expect a caramel sweetness in a Maduro, and that's for my particular palate. Everybody tastes different, but for my particular palate, what sets it apart is that uncommon sweet, because obviously Maduros tend to have a bit more sweetness, but this one has a sweetness that is different. It's like that. It's like I say, almost caramelly.
Caramel,
the sweetness, but yet you still have that power and that earthiness and the pepper. You have all of that in the background, but then there's this little crazy sweet creamy note, and you're like, oh, That's
But
what set
and
that cigar apart for me.
and it doesn't jade the palate. That's the key.
No,
It doesn't.
look,
Yeah.
listen, you guys, you hit it out of the park with this blend. My hope for you and for us as people who smoke them is that you're able to replicate that year in year
Yeah.
out, because it's such a fantastic blend.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's
the
my
challenge.
that's always my as long as I'm around, we keep it as consistent as humanly possible. Luckily, we do have, great tobacco inventories. We have great inventory of wrapper. The issue has been definitely the demand has outweighed expectations, and just our first 3 months of shipping the product.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been crazy.
Hell of a problem to have, though.
It's a hell of a problem, and then getting number one from Cigar Snob is just now taking it to the moon.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff. So then let's wrap up here. I've taken already a lot of your time. I know you're busy, so
I always enjoy talking to you. I forgot my name on here is Nicodemus.
Nicodemus. Yes, I saw that. I expected it to be Nicaragua, but no, Nicodemus.
I forgot I had it. That's my Rastafarian name.
Yes, that's for you, the other side of your life.
Yeah. Yes.
But so the plan is to have a Cigar of the Year party, right?
Yes.
So the idea would be to have a Cigar of the Year party. We pin down April 22nd tentatively. But we'll make announcements once we finalize those plans, where we'll get to just have fun together and celebrate that moment and have a toast, and we can have a few hundred fans with us there.
I can't wait. Don't serve me too many rums and cokes.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, there can never be too many rums. So, all right, my brother.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I think back to 2012 when you wrote the article, "A Connecticut Yankee in Esteli."
Yeah, our other Nick,
Nick
Jimenez wrote that. That was a great story, man. We love that one with the illustrations. Maybe we'll post that on the site, like repost it so that it pops up on people's feeds again, because that was such a fun piece.
That would be awesome. I have that issue is in my office. It sits right next to my desk, and that was really the first article I think anybody had wrote about me in the cigar industry. So I'll never forget that.
Yeah, man. Cool. Well, it's fun to come full circle, right? It's that cigar is 10 years after that story was written.
10 years, man. That's crazy. Crazy.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait for April. We'll have a good time together and properly celebrate this achievement.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. And thanks to your team. You got an amazing team and an amazing magazine. And I feel honored.
I appreciate it, brother. Well, have a great day, and let's see. I'll see you soon.
All right.
Cheers. Brother. Cheers.
All right.
If you're like me and look forward to cozying up to a warm fireplace after a long day on the range, kicking off your boots and settling into a nice big bowl of chili con queso, then you'd love the La Aurora 107 Nicaragua. This Dominican-made Nicaraguan puro is a bold new blend with tons of flavor, made with the same craftsmanship that has made La Aurora cigars one of the oldest and premium cigar makers in all the world. Started in the Dominican Republic in 1903, La Aurora Cigars was founded by the young Eduardo Leon Jimenez, who set out to fulfill his dream of making great cigars. Today, over a century later, La Aurora has a presence in 5 continents and more than 1,000 employees. The original La Aurora 107 was released in 2010, commemorating the company's 107 years in business. Now the La Aurora 107 Nicaragua brings a bolder new profile to smokers who have become accustomed to smoking the consistent quality and excellence of La Aurora cigars. The 107 Nicaragua comes to life with a diverse array of spicy notes accompanied by a subtle touch of leather. A rich balance of earth, wood, and floral notes flourishes deeper into the smoke with a characteristic pinch of licorice and walnut on the finish. Made in 4 sizes, a 7x47 Churchill, 6x58 Grand Toro, 5.5x54 Toro, and a 5x50 Robusto. The La Aurora 107 Nicaragua is a perfect complement to any rum cocktail, steak dinner, or even my famous chili con queso. Go on out and get yourself one and tell them Jasper sent you.
You know, I always tell them Jasper sent me everywhere I go. I'm at the store, I'm at the club, I'm at the, Jasper sent me. Oh, please.
Oh.
Adelante. Love you, Jasper. Yeah, he said I was number one. You see that? All right.
You sure that wasn't his middle finger?
Nah, I don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. So, fellas, first of all, thanks to Nick from Foundation Cigars, and congratulations to him, and congratulations to everybody, right? The top
Everybody on the
25.
list. A lot of deserving winners there.
Yeah,
A lot of great smokes on that list. Again, I mean, we spent a tremendous amount of time smoking through that thing to get to that. Man, it gets really tough to pick the last, to pick the top of the list there. It gets extremely difficult because the cigars are all so damn good.
And what I love about it is you can tell it's a labor of love. Absolutely. I mean, you get to sit here, smoke some great cigars and make some people's days and reward people for doing a great job.
Yep.
So Cigar Snob Mag, cigarsnob.com, right on the landing, right on the homepage. There's the links for all the top 25 cigars. So please, we encourage you to go there. All right. So as we're wrapping this up, Ivan, how is your smoky treat?
I'm feeling opulent,
Yeah.
This
you got Davidoff.
I got a
Rocky,
Davidoff
ALR,
Back Press. We're having the rum. This is like
heavy hitters here.
Good
Heavy
as
hitters.
it gets. As good as it gets right now.
Yep.
I'm sure you guys are feeling the same.
Yeah, this Rocky Patel ALR second edition is amazing, and to me, this cigar is so good. And it was 12. It was 12th. I mean, it just shows you the great list and what's. I mean, I can't wait to go through the list. I can't wait 25 up. So I'm gonna bunker in.
There's some really there's some surprises there too.
Right.
Like number 5, My Father La Antigüedad.
Mm.
That cigar took us totally by surprise.
I think what's impressive about that, because I don't know if you mentioned it or not, but some weighting goes into the release of the cigar. The newer the release, the higher the weighting gets. However, I feel that I don't think that played a bigger role in this year's list.
Agreed.
Even though the Olmec is a new release.
Correct.
I
agree.
don't know if the newness of it played a big part in the results. And that Antigüedad is a perfect example, because that cigar was released, I don't know, a long time ago.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
it's
it
been years.
climbed all the way up to where it's at. No, number 4?
Number 5, yeah.
5, yeah.
I'm a big La Promesa guy from My Father, and La
Excellent.
Antigüedad is. I was actually at a lounge the other day, and I recommended somebody to have it, and they were like, "Oh my God, so good!"
By the way, in that size, the one that we gave the number 5 to, that Corona Grande, man, what a perfect size. It's a little bit bigger than a regular Corona, right? As the name implies, Corona Grande, big Corona. But it's 6 3/8 by 47, and it's perfect. It's got a nice ratio of wrapper to filler, but it's also 6 3/8, so it's a little bit bigger than a Toro, and 47, so it's thinner than a Toro. So I love that combination. For me, that was one of my surprises there in that top 5. And then also the Padron 1926 natural. Everybody says Padron a surprise? Not really, right? And it's true. Padrones are not a surprise at the top of the list. However, in the natural, they are for us. Like we gravitate towards the Maduro line of Padron, and that guy was.
And I think if you spoke to most like retail shop owners and you ask them what are their top selling cigars, it's usually, from what I've heard, it's Padron and in the Maduro, the Aniversario in the Maduro.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that one was a surprise for us. The whole list is fantastic, and like Ivan said, and Jimmy, we do want to congratulate all 25 of the companies that produce those cigars, and all of the people that are associated with that throughout the year. So cheers to you guys. Cheers, fellas, to another
Salud.
great year of the Cigar Snob podcast. Jimmy
Hear,
is
hear.
out of rum.
Well, I have a little drop. And just go, and Zafra, cheers to you.
Cheers to my buddy Gardner at Zafra. Thank you, brother.
Amazing.
All
All right. So
Yeah.
listen, again, we're here for you. You want to leave us a great review. There's obviously the Facebook page as well for the mail time. It's always fun seeing you and Yami do your thing there.
We're about to go record a new one right now.
Listen, so please hang out with us. For Ivan, for Erik, for our executive producer Nat G over here, for Yami and everybody with the Cigar Snob Magazine podcast. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next time.
You've been listening to the Cigar Snob Podcast. Tune in next time for more nonsense and chicanery. But in the meantime, you can find previous episodes of the podcast on cigarsnob.com/podcast. Follow us at Cigar Snob Mag on all the social media platforms, and be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast on Apple Podcast. Until next time, hasta luego.